What would you like to see intactivism improve on?
Honestly, we have a big inclusivity problem. There, this might be considered controversial.
All right, so what would be your favorite intactivist group that would have the best effective activism, in your opinion?
My first group that I would always send someone to is what group is local to you? I live in Michigan, for example, so the first one I've been linking up with for like in-person events and stuff has been No Circ, Michigan. If you have a local group like that, that is where I recommend starting. Beyond that, um, Gladif is, I think, has the most potential to make change because it is a very valid legal case that they're trying to field. And if you have anything you can offer to help there, is phenomenal. Beyond that, I don't have anyone specific because it all just depends on region and it becomes really look into groups that are trying to change the laws. The best target we have at the moment is the Medicaid limiting to just limit non-therapeutic circumcisions just being not paid for is kind of your best bet if you're looking for a project to go for. And if you don't have a group in your state that is trying to do that, you can always start one.
Okay, yeah, I think that's Kane Law. I believe you said Gaudath, but Kane Law is the one that's limiting Medicaid. Um,
They're the ones working on Medicaid. The uh, Galdeth case where they are working to try and get together the class for the four specific states that have state laws on the book that guarantee gender equality under the law is honestly the stronger case from a court side standpoint.
okay, are you sure
Medicaid will
that's
always be, I think so. I might be wrong, and I'm willing to be wrong.
okay? Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's Eric Klopper's group because, and I also got confused myself because Health Equity Campaign, that's the one they're doing the Medicaid. Health Equity Campaign or Anthony Squadro, they're doing the Medicaid, trying to get that stopped in New Hampshire. And then Kane Law, they're the ones that going after, I believe Oregon, the Oregon litigation to try and make that
Mhm.
equality. And yeah, I mean, once again, you could be right. You could be right about Gaudath. Um, but I think Gaudath is doing a lot of like getting plaintiffs to go sue for circumcisions.
Yes. And
Yes.
that's what I'm talking about is one of the things they are looking for because it wouldn't have affected me, but I was going, my brother, my youngest brother fits within the time frame they're looking for. Just Michigan doesn't have one of the guaranteed equal protection laws, which is kind of the key they're trying to work with. But I looking at it, it is what they're trying to challenge with the constitutional challenge.
Okay. And that is with Gaudath, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome. So if circumcision had to end, do you think it would be through legal means?
I do not see how it ends in a sustainable way without it being codified into law in some way. Now, the that's not going to happen until the public opinion campaign wins or gets a little bit more pressure. And the thing you have to remember is every most people are indifferent to it because most people are not thinking about the genitals of anyone else they are not presently trying to sleep with. It is why one of the things you will see reflected in statistics are the number of intact men who don't give a thought about it one way or the other. And
Okay.
so every child you save, every child you keep intact, even if they are indifferent, it is that indifference that pressures parents to do, oh, just what dad had. So every person you do that to breaks the wheel because the odds of the intact father wanting to or being willing to circumcise their kid are significantly lower than if the father was cut. It's not 100% because people are going to people, but it is greatly reducing. And if you can get to true population density, if you can get enough exposure there, then the legal battle almost becomes perfunctory. But it still is going to be the only sustainable thing that happens.
Okay.
Because if it's not illegal, nothing's going to stop another health grifter from coming through and citing a new benefit, and then this all happens again like it did in the 19th century.
Okay. I also like that people are gonna people saying that's I never heard that before. All right. So have you protested or been with No Circ Michigan before or any group?
I don't do a lot of in person. I went and I didn't work the table, but I ended up being there that I was practically working the table because I was there long enough when they tabled at Ann Arbor's art fair in Michigan. For my own personal neurodivergent reasons, I don't do well in crowds. I also don't do well when confronted in person. I am way better behind a screen and on text.
Okay. I actually feel like it's a lot of people. And that's awesome that you tried it though. So you were like, did you know you were nervous around people and yet you still went to
Hmm.
the Ann Harbor and you're just like, I'm gonna try it?
Yep. It was absolutely I know they're going to be here. If nothing else, if it's too much for me to, go and try and help or talk to people at the table. I like an art fair. It's another thing to be doing. It's least I'm out of the house.
Okay. So did you
But
end up liking it a little bit or like how was it on a scale to like 1 to 10 on how bad it was?
for me, it was probably close to a 6 in terms of how bad. It was not really something that's good for me, but I also don't do conventions. Like for a while, I was trying to help run a local fan convention and very quickly became, oh, this is overwhelming. This is too many people. So it's
Okay.
just one of those too many. I knew going in it would be bad, and 6 is better than I expected it being. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the I don't process. Um, Personally, I have issue also processing overlapping voices. My brain will focus on everyone speaking equally, which means I have no idea what's happening.
That's really awesome though that you still went out there and you tried though. I mean, there are people that don't have your social anxieties and they're just like, "Oh, I'm never going out there. Nope, not me," you know? And you're just like, "Oh, I get socially anxious AF, but I'm still gonna try it." Man, we need more people like you. Dear God. So what would you like to see intactivism improve on?
Honestly, we have a big inclusivity problem. There, this might be considered controversial. Men aren't the only people with penises. Honestly, men aren't even the only currently unprotected gender when it comes to non-consensual genital modification. Because this happens every day to intersex people. There is absolutely no reason why we should not be creating more space, especially for intersex people within the area. This can be and turn into very quickly an unwelcoming environment because naturally, as I already pointed out, we're a group of really messed up people because something fundamentally messed up happened to us. A little bit of grace for that is needed, but it can also lead a lot of people to pick, it feels to me, the wrong target for their anger, either parents or the opposite gender or anything like that. And that's not useful. That is absolutely useful for your grieving process. You are absolutely allowed to feel more animosity towards the opposite gender because of your particular circumstances. That is absolutely valid. It hurts the message. The When you go after one gender, like, oh, women did this to me, it's all women. Most OBGYNs are women, so they're the ones performing most circumcisions, stuff like that. it very easily becomes the general public will write us off as basically the, men's rights activists joke from Married with Children. They will just write us off as like, no, ma'am. And that honestly hurts the message. It prevents it from getting out there. There is absolutely no reason why like we can't get the your body, your choice crowd on board. It just takes the willingness to reach out to them and be like, okay, yeah, your position currently is hypocritical. Let's walk you through and help you undo the hypocrisy. Because if we get them on board, then we actually have the people that's needed to really start pushing stuff.
Okay. So speaking of, convincing people and stuff like that. So how did you personally become aware that circumcision was a problem?
I have been mad about this since I was 12. Um, when I was about 12, there was a Dateline NBC, like one of their features was about the nascent at that point, because this was about 2002, intactivist movement. And it was the first time I had ever heard about it. It was legitimately because sex ed in Michigan, I never saw a diagram of an intact penis. It was the first time I heard that anything had been taken from me. And I was mad from that point. And then a little bit later that year, my dad made some kind of a crass joke where circumcision was the punchline. And I asked what it was and got a non-answer and legitimately gaslit myself into thinking, oh, my parents who love me and treasure me could never do this to me. And then, puberty and the dawn of the internet happened. So I found out how wrong I was. And from there, it was just kind of always simmering in the background. It has poisoned so many of my relationships and relationships with my family. And I've always, like I said, been adjacently aware. Like I became aware of restoration when I was maybe 19, but didn't get started again until this year. That felt too much like having to deal with it, and I just couldn't. Um, I have a lot of sympathy for the people out there who have the sort of inklings and the starts of knowledge like I did, who feel like I can't deal with this. If I think about this, I will break, and I do not have the room to break. I understand. You're not doing yourself any favors by not breaking. Break a little bit. I promise you, you're more likely to bend.
Yeah, no, I think that's very good advice. I mean, people are very resilient. It's crazy that people feel like this will break them. In reality, I feel like it helps them heal much better.
Yes.
Because I could only imagine, like, you know, it's like imagine getting like your hand cut off or whatever and just being like, "Oh, this is fine," and just ignoring all your feelings of this is not fine. Like you're just
Yep.
hurting yourself even more. And then
That
once you
internal monologue that's going through your head going, no, 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 no. No one else is mad. So why am I mad? This can't actually be a problem. It must not actually be useful. They wouldn't do it if it was useful. That is lies. That is you trying to make it okay. And I'm sorry, it's not okay. It never was, and it still isn't. If you can accept that, there is a better path to actual resilience and moving forward in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like if people understood that more, they would actually be happier and they would actually have choices to go and do things and help their traumas. So,
They wouldn't be me who's legitimately anytime my parents would ask me for money for things like a phone bill or completely reasonable things that I'm contributing to, because, it's just in your name because it's a big family plan, but I pay my part of the phone bill. You know, it's a lot healthier to not have your first reaction go, haven't you taken enough from me? And actually deal with the problems.
yeah, no, definitely, absolutely. So I do have some fan questions here. So one of these, I don't know how you're going to answer, but I'm going to get this to you anyways. So can you provide evidence that your actions have played a role in reducing circumcisions being prevented?
I, as a blogger, 100% no. That's not the type of thing. It's also not purely my goal. My goal is a lot more focused on information spreading, as well as providing the channel for people to actually sit and think and feel what they did or what was done to them. That being said, I do have evidence of minds changing. Just yesterday, I had first gotten into a minor fight publicly with who was my best friend in middle school, who I haven't talked to since high school over this. And then he started after I responded in the comment, and then he read my articles. He came to me with the, I get it. Glad I had girls.
Yeah, well, that's good that at least he gets it.
Hmm. We spent like 3.5 hours talking yesterday, and I might have also gotten him started on restoration.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, restoration is a huge jump for a lot of people. All right, so Oberyn, where can people follow you at if they want to keep up with you?
I am at Rhapsody032590 on literally anything that requires me to have a screen name. That is also my Medium handle, so you can search for me there. If you search for me on Twitter, you'll find me that way. You'll find me there on Instagram as well. And my Facebook is obviously under my name.
All right, awesome. Oh, another question, because I know some of my fans get confused about this. So is Oberyn your real name?
It will be as soon as the courts get off their butt.
Okay. All right, because I know some people come in here with pen names and stuff like that. I was wondering if it was just a pen name, but I guess it's gonna be your real name soon. So I did not know that.
Yep. My legal name is still David, but I have always hated that name, and I have issues with the person I was named for. So I needed to change it, and now the courts are just being slow.
Okay. Was it like religious, David, or is it?
It's not, I'm not named for the religious David, it is a relative
Oh, okay. Well,
who was the relative.
okay, yeah, I bet he was probably not a good relative. Yeah. Okay. So also, what do you think about Prevail over the system?
I think you're doing a lot of really good work. I wouldn't have heard about like three different groups that I, sorry, are escaping my brain right now had it not been for you. Legitimately, I also would not be nearly as up to date on how Fortune is going because I've only been passively tracking it because I'm going to be entirely honest. I really, really, really want it to be viable, but I do not have a lot of faith because I have seen a lot of revolutionary medicine never materialize. That was really promising in other fields. So it's just a lot of being old and jaded, but
That's
I do
actually
like
really good
following along.
input. That's really good input on Forging, actually. I'm glad you brought that up because I was supposed to ask you about Forging and I totally forgot. So I'm glad you brought that up about Forging because yeah, they just got done with animal trials.
Like I am super excited. That is way further than half of the like revolutionary medical breakthroughs we've had in the past, 30 years ever get. Like we're seeing a ton of good stuff. There's good stuff coming out of there. I'm just very much at temper your expectations. Even if we are starting human trials, we are a decade away from it being something that is widely available. And that's not counting the fact that you've got maybe another separate decade to get it approved by the various regulatory boards across the world.
Okay. Thank you for being on Prevail over the System. I definitely appreciate it. And if there's anything that you would want your audience to take away from this interview, what would it be?
You can make a difference. Legitimately, do not underestimate the power of speaking. It is the silence that they use to damn us. It is the silence that is killing us. Speak. Tell people. If you can't speak publicly, tell your family, tell your friends. If you have made the mistake for your children, tell your children. I promise you, you want them to hear it from you, not find out themselves. The best you can hope for when they find out themselves is resentment. If you tell them, you actually have a path forward to a relationship built on truth.
Okay, guys, that was Oberyn part 2. Let me know your thoughts by commenting down below. I will have Oberyn's links down in the description so you can follow him. Please give this a like to push Oberyn's message further, and subscribe so you don't miss our other interviews that we are releasing every week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!